To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, one thus gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With pure bodies, form supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme science, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is a teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you, may all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniryatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Di long di sumbat long kyuchung de che.
Di
Sibir long. Lung di shiva de dunja.
Kanshi tsam dunyi kibu di dunyi shishi. Rangyu tobe dunyi ki delere.
Long.
La.
Long.
Kibu dunyi dunyi shishi. Dana kibu chimbu koto tere da, rwa? Kibu dunyi bata chosare.
Kyuchung long.
Da kibu sunga nani kibu chungo dan dunyi lamdungi. Lamdungi shungo di chosare che. Da kibu chimbu di lamdungi shungzi di rangyu tobe dunyi ki Kanshi shenki dungi gu yangda sebar guyun du ne guyun du kibu du ne cho yin nos. Di kibu chimbu ki tsingi diri sharwa namdra ki shung ne sumbe.
Long. So yesterday we have touched upon the first 4 verses and mainly focuses on the small scope and the middling scope. And the 5th verse touches on the superior advanced scope practitioner. And the verse reads, those who, through their personal dukkha, truly want to end completely all the dukkha of others are a person of supreme capacity.
Dino. Chizu da chiza kibu sungi namsha di anda di kibu chungu di Kanshi tamne kanda ki kowe dewa tsamdala rangi dun dunya cheba kibu di ne tamar she tsikdu sundu kanak da Kanshi siya di chida kansa chik sigorwa da kanda kibu Kanshi chigla topja kowe dewa tsam dun dunya ni ani tabdi da migu chubungu chudumda soba dang ani gyamdru da lenjek namchala soba kanda sidi didar tenni ani 남 된대 줄래 때네 아니 돈도 예저지 코에 대화 좀 돈도 얘기 강사지라 기부 담아선 거였어 제대로도
No. So we review back to the initial scope, the small scope individual. The 3rd verse touches on that, and know that those who by whatever means seek for themselves no more. So the verse Kangshi in Tibetan, Tapki Khanda Ki, it implies to any individuals, and individuals who seek a happiness within the cyclic existence. And so they want to have the supreme kind of happiness within the cyclic existence. So what they do is they engage into 10 virtuous actions, and they discard the 10 non-virtuous action. They go refuge to the 3 jewels, and they abide by the law of karma. For this kind of individuals are the initial or the small scope individuals. No, sir.
자사 지디관에 당한저 기부 숨계기 칭이 디나리아 강시 세대 순간 찍어 되는 되기도 직접 송 되기도 다 되는 디갑이야 톱자들이야 기부 중요 값수 고려 대화체 기부 딩기 값수 아니 시베 대화체 라시베 대화체 제가 아니 시베 대화 말 그래서 그래 고려 대화체 되네 기부 침부 값수 아니 양다버 세복군에 되가 수되가네 아니 다 대화세야 직들레면서 제산다 디 인디가네 녀단데 슈고에디 아란주 삼노당 거야다 제바체 거야들라 다 기부 딩기 qabla 가르스네야 강시스 심제 강시 다 간다 탑에 대화 된도 녀네 아니 탑디 디벨레레 도다니 시두가네 탑디 아니 코르베 거스우레다 덴바시 남샤레도 간다 디벨레레 도다니 시두가네 디벨레 시두가네 둥에 가서다 덴바시디제 덴바시 남샤 디고네 아니 톱자디 다 다르베 대화시 된다니 이거스 디스도 간에다 톱자 다르베 대화들로 코르베 대화당 다르베 대화니를 켜봐 카르토스 제제 디니니 켜봐 주송 아니 딩기 갑라 다 간데 기부 중요 갑리야 톱자 송녀기 아니 코르베 대화디 기부 딩기 갑라 디 방자 송제 아니 딜라하베다 다르베 대화시 토버지기 인스 제제 디스도 간에다 코르베 대화당 봐 아니 기부 딩기 갑라 방자 인백이 시베 대화당 아니 기부 딩기 톱자 규베 다르베 대화스 제제 대화숨들에 켜봐 카르토 디섬노 시당다라
The explanation touches on the third and the fourth verse right now, and when we look at the Tibetan verse, you will see Kangshi in the first line of the small scope, and on the fourth verse, again you see Kangshi Rashi Tsamtönyer, right? And then also you see on the fifth verse again Kangshi. So you see Kanshi in these three verses, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So that's something we need to delve deeper into it. And so when we look into the third verse, which is for the initial and the small scope individuals, and they seek the highest supreme happiness of the cyclic existence. So they abide by the law of karma and they go for refuge to three jewels. So these are some of the unique characteristics within this. But when we move into the intermediate or the middle scope individuals, then this cyclic existent happiness of the small scope becomes a hindrance to the middle scope individuals. So it becomes something that to discard for the middle scope individuals. So the middle scope individuals, they aim for self-liberation. So that's in order to reach to the self-liberation, they have to see the hindrances, and they see that the cyclic existent happiness is an obstacle for their own seeking the higher path. So again, we see the aim of the the initial scope and the middle scope becomes very different. And then when we look closer into the middle scope individuals, what are some of the engagement of practices they engage in is pretty much focuses on the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, they go really deeply into the detailed understanding of the Four Noble Truths, and then they seek the self-liberation, which is the nirvana. And then when we come to the great scope, superior advanced individual, then again for them, they see the suffering nature of all existence, and they not only they want for their own liberation, but they see the suffering nature of the other beings. So again, their aim is totally different from the middle scope, where the superior advanced scope focuses on the awakening state of enlightenment for the benefit of others. So the goal has become more superior and superior, and becomes the differences is as you advance, you discard the initial to middle, those the wish, desire to have happiness, that goal becomes totally changed, transformed. It becomes a hindrance to the higher path. So the question here for all of us to analyze is that goal has changed, right? From each level, the goal has changed, and that why does these differences happen? So that analytical process we can reflect on. Yes.
나데네 기부 중의 qabla 톱자 하다 미 대화슬라바 기부 딩기 qabla 톱자디 타르베 대화슬라바 근데 다 기부 딩기 qabla 톱자 규베기 아니 타르베 대화디 아니 하다 미 대화레다 말했어 기부 중의 qabla 톱자 수면 하다 미 대화지라 톱자 디스무라 된다니야데 기부 딩기 qabla 아니 딘데 하다 미 대화디 파 방자 송니 톱저디 탈베 대화디 셔고라
No.
지도가 나다 기부 딩기 톱저기 왜 탈베 대화디 하다 미 대화래다 말했어 어디래다 저지
So again, as we delve deeper into this analyzation, that of course we know that the small scope, the initial scope individuals, the aim is to have supreme human rebirth and to be reborn into the God realm. And when you gain that, then your desired happiness is achieved, right? So then when we move to the middle scope individuals, again, the goal is to avoid this, what would be the better word? Discard would be, because it becomes a hindrance, So then the achievement of their aim is the nirvana or the self-liberation, is their happiness goal, right? So the question here is that would the middle scope individuals see within their self-liberation or the nirvana, how about whether they have the happiness of the human and the God realm happiness is within them or not? So
딱 간다 탈베 대화죠라 탈베 대화디 하다 미 대화래다 말했어 탈베 대화디 하미 대화래 말했어
Is the happiness of the liberation or the nirvana of the middle scope individual, is it a human and the God realm happiness?
그래 말했어
Is it or not? Asking question.
디마나 아니 덴데 탈베 대화디 냠수뇽이디 하다 미 강루지 말했어 하다 미 강루 규리 열와 덴데 탈베 대화디 야나 미 냠수뇽거를 야나 하이 냠수뇽거를 와서 딩일레 셴베 강사직 냠수뇽이지 열외 탈베 대화디 하다 미 마히마지 기 탈베 대화 통일시 열외
Ale.
어디들
The next question, another question is, if the answer is no, then would they be an individual that have the goal of nirvana, but have achieved the happiness of human and God? Wouldn't they have that nirvana goal?
어디 저들 근데 탈베 대화디 톰니디 하다 미 강루지 말을 했으니
The goal seeker, no, the goal seeker, the goal to seek, which is nirvana, wouldn't that goal seeker would be a human or God? Yes.
봐. 이 누가네 덴데 탈베 대화디 미 귤리 유디가네 미 대화 차 말이다.
So since since that happiness focuses on the nirvana state by the human and the God, wouldn't that the nirvana goal setting is within that individual human or God? Wouldn't that be right?
네, 단디 단다 캬나 놀라 샤르면서 기시 탈베 대화시오라.
탈베
대화디 톰니 야난 하이 토고르 야난 미 토고르와. 기시 덴데 탈베 대화디 미 토디 전에 미 귤리 유나디 미 대화 차소다.
알레. 이 비게 탈베 대화디 톱디 아니 미 대화 차소.
말이야. 탈베 대화디 톰니 수이 토고르.
미디.
야난 미 토고르 야난 하고 토고르와. 기시 탈베 대화디 미 톱스나 미 귤리 유나디 미 대화 차소다.
So little tricky. Sorry, I'm struggling. It's a good test for me. So the thing is, the middle scope individuals, seekers, are those of humans and God, individuals. They are seeking the highest state of nirvana's happiness, right? So when the human or God seekers, when they seek the liberation, self-liberation, and when they reach that liberation state, whether it's a human or God, when they reach that, let's take an example of a human, that they have reached the highest state of liberation. For that individual, particular individual person, wouldn't that when he reached to that self-liberation, wouldn't that be happiness of a human?
근데 비전 라트에서 말해.
Nirvana.
그래서 tarbe 대화의 통일 수래. 하이 토그레 미 토그레스.
So who would be the individuals who has reached to that self-liberation state? Would it
야나 하이 토그레 야나 미 토그로 받아.
would it be it would be either human or God who will reach to that state.
다 네가 뭐가지 톰루도 와. 다 기지 tarbe 대화의 미지가 토바이나. 다 딜랍.
So let's say that a human individual has reached to that highest self-liberation. No.
그래서 미지가 톰나.
No, that he has achieved.
벤나 셰리부샤는 그래 몽겔부. 셰리부다 몽겔부 귤리아다 간다르 tarbe 대화 여러 봤을라.
So let's take an example of individuals, Shariputra and Monkepu, and they were human, but they were seeking that self-liberation. Let's take that as a human example. Now,
that's 몽겔이 비귤리에 tarbe 대화디 미 대화로 왔어.
So the Monkepu as an individual, when
몽겔부 인지 돌아가래.
Moklayana, okay, Moklayana, when he seeks the self-liberation, but he is in the human state. So within his mind stream, so I think that's the technicality, within his mind stream, there is a happiness of a human existence, right?
그래서 몽겔 비귤리에 tarbe 대화디 미 대화래다 말해. 그래서 디르트와 디르다.
Muklayaна's goal to seek the self-liberation, within his state, he also has this dual kind of process of human happiness as well as the self-liberation. Both can be consistent in his mind stream. I think that's the technicality. Wouldn't that be? That's what Geshe is asking the question. Wouldn't that be human happiness in Muglayana's mind stream? Is it not? So if Muglayana's mind stream doesn't have human happiness, would that be happiness of a God in his mind stream? If it's not God happiness, then in his mind stream, is there about happiness within the hell realm? So it is not a human happiness. It's not human happiness, it's not God's happiness, it's not hell's happiness. Then if it's not of either of all these cases, then is it a happiness from the stone and wood? Did it come from the happiness that stemmed from the grasses? So in order to achieve the happiness of the self-liberation or the nirvana, we need a field. A field.
lama gewe shinge ka chi ge sun de kan jegom de ge che re sun de chesan da jegom gi nenga den de toyen gu do.
And the reason Geshe was doing this today is to really go into details, the analyzation process, how important it is. And in the meditative state, that's how you analyze a lot. And then that's where the conviction comes from. But most of the time, people take meditation as something stay still and focus on one thing. But right now, what we are exercising right now is the analytical meditation, and that is really imperative in the spiritual path.
Dine tanda dine nga chili ya chisa dinde ki ta sharipuda mungi ki biyu gyulu yube tarbe dewa shidwa. Tarbe dewa di mi dewa mayin lamna ni yande samdaya chik chagidwa asa. Kisi lada mi dewa yina dinde sharipuda mungi bulu yube tarbe dewa di ta pangja chagwa ra, ibu jingi pangja ra asa.
And the analytical process is done when we look closer into this analogy of Shariputra and Muglayana, that though they are in a human state seeking for the highest happiness of the self-liberation of each of the individual within their mind stream, but since though they have the highest state of the self-liberation as a goal, but they do have this human happiness within themselves. So the question is that do they need to discard those human happiness in order to achieve the self-liberation state, or do they enjoy that experience of human happiness in order to gain that? So those are some of the rebuttals or some questions that you can analyze the process. So it's an analytical process that I'm trying to indicate here.
I guess the me dewa yin lamna ne pangja chagwa. Taya pangja resisana me tarwe dewa yin sonsan ko topja chatayo ya. Topja nane topja tardu chi chatayo.
So within that individual mind stream, the comfort and the happiness of the human cyclic existent happiness is something to be avoided, because that becomes hindrances. But within that, the goal of the self-liberation is something to be adopted and to be attained. So that kind of sequential understanding needs to be there.
gyulu tarbe dewa den pangjayi topja tarduye yin sije ani changma yinbaji da chagidu es.
So the question here is that attaining this highest goal from the middle scope individual's mind of seeking to the highest state of self-liberation that's the goal. So when that goal to be attained, the hindrances of the human happiness to be discarded, and then also discard that in order to attain that, that's something to reflect deeper on.
기부 준비 증이 그돌리도 간에 제산 다단데 기부 중의 톱자디 하다미 대화체 되네 기부 징기 톱자디 다 다르베 대화체 기부 준비 톱자디라야 단데 디급소 대화스 마야체 양다 세버군도 봤으제 직딜레스 왔어.
So when we go to the verse 5th, and prior to that, touching on the small scope individual, the highest attainment goal is be born as a human and God. And for the middle scope or the intermediate scope individuals, the highest state of happiness is the self-liberation or the nirvana. And then for the superior advanced scope individuals, when we look closer into the verse itself, it doesn't indicate about happiness, but it indicates clearly about suffering. And the suffering, particularly in suffering, in dispelling or removing the suffering of others in the verse itself. And so that's something to be analyzed or reflect deeper on. Those who, through their personal dukkha, truly want to end completely, and the line that Geshe indicated is all the dukkha of others. That is something a very important characteristic of the advanced level or a superior scope individuals. and are persons of supreme capacity. Yes.
지산데 톱제들라 가르송스는 저 세버르 꾸는 되어야 돼. 세버르 꾸는 되었기도 와. 세버르 꾸는 되어야 돼. 디날 야 디송야라 야 짐니 지번이 바자다 제바 말류바 꾸네 양다버 세바스기도 와. 지지간에 다 톱제들라 지번이 디가래 윤지단 시지제 디니니 양 아니 짐니다 사변다 바자다 제바 아니 양다버 세바스 말류바 꾸네 양다버 세바스 다 톱제 상기 공방 상기 공방이 내리시하고 또
디 한다 티나로라 쇼랑 가지고 있나 뭐디 리스트 now 니겔라이 한다
티의 쇼랑 조금 나도
So we go to the commentary.
중이기 쇼랑 중이기 슈슈슈슈당 조금 기코라.
So when we look at the commentary, it's on the end line of the commentary of the 12th page and the beginning of it. So basically, and that really explains in terms of all the dukkha of others. In the translation here, they put the words differently. So the verse Yanta Sebar Gyune De is on the second line of an English verse, which says, truly want to end completely. So that is something we should look closer, and then Geshe is giving an explanation that when we say truly want to end completely, what is that end? And then end is to remove completely, and that is to remove the two afflictions, the afflicted emotions and the cognitive obscurations, those to be removed, and then to remove completely from the subtle imprints. And then once it's completely removed from the subtle imprints, then reach to the highest awakening state. So the line Yanda Sebar Gyune De is something very, very profound, that has very deep meaning, that really takes care of removing one's own afflicted emotions and the cognitive obscurations. Now.
진주가는 다 된저 강사되게 톱제디 dim이 바자다 잡아 세버 방배 아니 방바 터도디 톱제시 톱제기 람데 가서나 아니 강시 신기 동의 구현 시도잖아요 다 신기 시도잖아요 신도 동의기 돈바이 되나래 봐 동의 구현 시도간에 아니 닝지 첨부돼 되나래 닝지 첨부들리기도 대지도간에 다 간다라 탑 신도 동의기 돈바당 아니 전주 동의기 돈바당 아니 자와닝지 첨부당 다나 신기 잠바당 지도자네다 세매시 닝지 아니 다 전주기 셈 다가나 신기 퍼진 두 뒤 상물로 다 간다 찍디 땡기도 왔어.
The second line of the fifth verse, second line, which says Kanshi Shengi Dungye Kun, that has a very deep, profound meaning, which in the English line is on the third line, which says all the dukkha. Dukkha is the sufferings of others, right? So to expound on that, is this line indicates that in order to remove all the afflicted emotion and the cognitive obscuration, you need to follow the path. So this line talks about the path of the practice. And the path of the practice is when, in this particular line verse, there is Shen, Kangshi Shen is others, and Dungel is suffering. So those two particular words have a very, very significant profundity in it, because it really talks about the characteristics of the advanced scope practitioners. So Shen means others. So that Shen implies of that you want to benefit other sentient beings. Shin. So there's a compassion element there. So this line is about the part of practice of the superior capacity, which focuses on the benefiting others, and then the suffering is that they have a true great compassion within their mind stream in order to remove the suffering nature. And then for that to happen, they aim for the supreme state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then the element of love is also included. So basically, this one line indicates all the four immeasurables, and also it indicates all the six perfections. So this one line has a depth of profundity and a meaning that encompasses all the path of practice that the superior advanced scope individuals have to engage in. Yes.
This 강리야 도스지 지디 대송소아 다 기부되는 초인으로서 다 된대기 기부 준비나 단다 디급스 기부 준비 남데 다 조르 송구 성자 아니 기부 준비 남데 송구이나 다 송구르데 얘네 디다조 강사 간데질이야 아니 민의 송구이서나 안 심제 담바 장주초 되버를 교바 대다라 라만남기 땜바에 아니 양다 탐니 셰버자 하스제 제자다 시도주에 두자 된대질이야 아니냐 다 대버 준비를 함께 남샤티 아니 또 스탱기 인스셰셰 조직이 다단다 남주나로 소야티 디레도 된다한테.
Yes. And in order for the advanced superior scope individual to engage into the practice, then the sixth verse talks about who are the person who engages into this great scope individual practices. And for that, Adisha explained the next verse, which is the sixth verse, is for those excellent living beings who desire supreme awakening. I shall explain the perfect methods taught by the spiritual teachers. So that talks about who would be the appropriate individuals that would take the path of the superior level practice. Yes.
That 기부 간대질이야다 간다르 대고 준비를 남데 순교했으나 아니 심제 담바 전주 초스디가네 단다달레 심제 시게라 간다르 기부 담바 간다 대고 준비 릭세 등이 된대질 하스 대고 준비 릭세 아니 톱자 전주 상기기 공바 아니 톱을 되니 강사 된대질라 봐 아니 라만남기 템베기 아니 대고 준비기 남데 아니 얘도 셰셰 아니 순교했어
Yes. And so to go a little bit further into the Tibetan verse, the sixth verse, when we say Semchen, here Semchen is a living being, but here the Semchen is indicated to the superior seeker, the supreme advanced level practitioner. And for that sentient being, the aim is for the Buddhahood, the final state of awakening, for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that indication is very clearly in this first line of Tibetan Simche Thamba Chanchu Cho. And then in the translation, it's written as for those excellent living beings who desire supreme awakening. So, and for those individuals, then what the spiritual teachers have taught, then Adisha would show the path.
라만남기 템바에 안다탐네 셰버자 손두가나 라만남기 템바스도가네 더 조지기 대보 준비 남게 남샤 대송야디 아니 조지 라니기 아니 랑수 제샤바다 주주지 제송샤바 텐데메 간달 라마 공반 남기 아니 숑리야 롱당 공동네 아니게 양다바시 땡기 인스시죠 어디래도.
So here, when we look at the third and the fourth line, Lama Namgi Tembayi Yanda Tapki Shebarcha of the Tibetan verse, which is translated as I shall explain the perfect methods taught by the spiritual teachers, that understanding should be that this text is something that he didn't create it by himself. You know, he didn't write it, just invent it by himself, but he relied on his teachers and the lineage gurus. So that shows the profundity and the authenticity, that it came from an authentic source and the lineages. So that's something to think about. No.
근데 남만 담만남 기tembe 양답에 탑디 아니 조 전주 전주 셈들라 면셈다 죽셈 내 전주 셈 배쳐봐 발진 죽아 디디 송구여라 봐.
So the part of the practice of the superior advanced scope practitioners, it's the main thing is the bodhicitta mind, and within the bodhicitta mind, the aspiring bodhicitta and the engaging bodhicitta. These two are important to take into consideration, and to that the advanced seeker seek, and then the action that they practice is the six perfections.
다들 전주 셈들이야 면셈다 주셈 니나 당보 면셈디 다 송도 간에 면셈 송해야 될이야 다 당보들라 조와 무시 죽순 그거네 땡기도 와.
So now when we go to the development of the bodhicitta, and the development of the bodhicitta in the aspiring bodhicitta, then we need to think about three elements within that generation of the bodhicitta. And the aspiring bodhicitta is what is the engagement of it, and what is the actual practice, and what is the end practice.
좋아하지. 다 당부 좋아들래야. 당부 유유 강래야. 좋아들래야. 좋아하지. 다 당부 좋아들래야. 아니 초사바당. 겸주 개발진 잡아당. 아니 셈숨 좋아하지. 삽제 숨. 좋아들라 당부 초사바. 되네 겸주 개발진 잡아. 되네 셈숨 좋아하지. 삽제 숨 기권을 리도.
So now let's take the first element, which is the engagement of the bodhicitta, and the engagement has another three, we can say sub-elements, or that needs to be done within that. And so first is extensive accumulation of merit. Second is to have an extraordinary refuge to three jewels, and the third is development of simsumra, and then three simsum, and then sung. So then the third is developing the mind. It's a mind training, lojong, mind training.
다 sabje sungunane 지당 좋아하는 것이 죽음 되는 좋아들라양 아니 초사바다 아니 겸주 개발진 상황다 아니 세마음 로중아 숨제 다 당부 초소바들라 초소베들이야 아니 단데 지간 tum바데 조상 지구라서다 최대한 담방원 전에 몇도 두부 뭐보다 지저바이 쳐버자 구산줄을 숭바인 주반 넘버 된다경 전주 님부 더도버 미도바의 셈다기 스체시 이게 다 subject 당부 된서
No. So when we go delve into this engagement of the practice, within that the sub-elements of extensive accumulation of merit, extraordinary refuge to three jewels, and the third element is the mind training or developing of the mind. Now, within that three sub-elements, we are taking now the extensive accumulation of merit. Now, extensive accumulation of merit is in the 7th verse. 7th verse reads about the extensive accumulation of merit, which says, facing paintings, statues, and so forth of the completely awakened one, relinquish and excellent teachings, offer flowers, incense, and whatever you have. That's the 7th verse, and the 8th verse also. With the 7-part offering from the King of Aspiration prayers, and with the thought never to turn back till you gain full awakening. So the 7th and the 8th verse indicates about the engagement of the practice, which is the first element of the extensive accumulation of merit.
그래서 다 집에 그도 들려야 다 강가 된수다 지지 미시 주모가지 다래다 간다를 구송 구단 송다 투기 때 수수 들려야 다 간다 담에 되지도 다 간다 주주 죽들의 계지 솔람리나 시순지나네 주주 죽들 남바서 참에 ken게 벌었어.
So when we look into this extensive merit of the 7th and the 8th verse, it's something that you all know, and if you look closely, it's mostly about the offerings and how we display the three body, speech, and mind, that display of the three jewels, and then how we go paying homage, and also basically in the Lamrim text, all the 6 preparatory practices, Juvichutu. So all these comes under these 2 verses.
초바디 그도 되잖아. 내가 남기 도나난 거야 될래 초바들라 라나 매베 초바다 라나 예베 초바스 셰셰 초바니 숨고도.
Then within the offerings, something that you can pay close attention to is something that you offered from your own side, offered, and something that you visualize. So whether it's a manifest offering or the unfathomable that is created within your mind, and I think the technical word here is unfathomable, that encompass all kinds of offerings that you visualize.
다데네 아니 라나 예베 초바들라 아니 제게 초바다 딩인생이 초바스 셰셰.
So when you do the offering, the offering that is made from your own side has 2 elements. One that is substance or any kind of material, and one that is done through the meditative concentration.
어디로? 다단다 디나네 응은초네 에네 메도 두비무부 초스디자네 안디게 때 참몰라 단다 제공무부 어초반 남바도 남지 용다로 와기나 소나시 어디 쉐샵시 메도 두비 마르메스 체체 딘델레 연구도.
And then in the verse, the 7th verse, where it's the offer flowers, incense, whatever you have, is all the normal offerings that we lay out, the water bowls with the 7 water bowls with different kinds of items. Those all are substance offerings. No.
아니 주바비는 소남 사기 요바다 조사 지존도지 지구 요바디 다 숨만 많이 배치지 않네. 지 그래서 상계긴 돌레 군도 상변 돌레 송바 시송 제제 디제베나 아니 평균대 다 독그레스 제제 비윤구입에 공론데 디레도.
No. Making offerings extensively, one gains a tremendous amount of merit, and it's a purification. So this is not just stated as it is, but these all statements are relied on the authentic source of Buddha's own words, and also for that authenticity to authenticate, then the 8th verse very clearly says that from the King of Prayers. So it also, this shows the source came from the authentic source. No.
다 안등이 라나메베 추바디 그도 레디자네 아니 단다 라나메베 추바디 제알 소바다 딘데 디제 라나메베 추바디 아니 동유도베 셔럽기 심베 미고 양네 추바디 아니 라나메베 추바인데 그네 야 딜리아 지 동유기 고아 차고야 당 동유 더 건들 야롭준 지고야 디 개침면서래.
So when Geshe stated earlier that is offering that is made by one's own physical manifestation, and then that's the offering that's unfathomable, created within your mind, and that offering has to be held by the view of emptiness. And if you hold with the view of understanding of emptiness and make the offering, and that implies the unfathomable offerings that you created. So here we can see how important the subject of emptiness is. No.
다 비나 아니 뒤지 비단데 전주 님부 투기 버스 되거나 아니 상기기 고마 마톱기 버도 아니 된데 가르소래 겹 가르소래 겸도 개버진 소요권에 아니 뒤 라니 상기기 전주 마톱기 버도 아니 된데 소남도 초다 이식이 초래야 아니 주긴 시셰 샘송해야 되래도.
And now, how long? The question is the time frame. How long you want to engage into this practice, and you want to engage into this practice. Right now, we are focusing on the offerings. So until I reach to the complete state of enlightenment, that you want to engage into this extraordinary going for refuge to the 3 jewels. That specificity is important, because in order for that to do, what one gains is that the extensive merit and purification, and then you employ that with the skillful vast methods and the wisdom aspect. So these two are needed.
지금은 다디 kopsu 대양 한조 개발제 거에 지당 세가 되는 거에 지려야 다 지당기 겸주 지당 안리 겸주 개발제 시제 겸주 니리도 와서.
Something that we can now analyze a little bit deeper here is that the differences here is general kind of going for refuge to 3 jewels, and the extraordinary going for refuge to 3 jewels. So again, there is a difference between them, and that's something we need to reflect and critically analyze.
제가 다디 남기 아주 좋은 소야치네 제가 겸주들이야 아니 겹기 전에 규ገብ당 제ገብ시 니리고 그랬어.
So when we go into the subject of the refuge, and generally the going for refuge is one that is a causal refuge and one that is a result refuge, and so that's important to understand. No.
그래서 규ገብ당 제ገብ니 유디 전에 규기 겹들이야 아니 겹유디 단다 디나소 하나 신시세 이게 강네 조산지고 라소 당 아니 주된 담봉어 전에서 제시 디겹유디 규격이 규용에서 거라.
So when we talk about the causal refuge, then when we look into the 7th verse, the first 2 words, Zosan Tibu La Sopa, is facing paintings, statues, so forth of completely awakened ones. That indicates about the causal refuge.
다 되네 디샴기 측제되나라야 양 얘기 믹스에기 겸르체네 잔주 인닝부 마톡 잔주 인닝부 털도그 바도 아니 제반 남바되게 표기 했으되거네 개비 되기 개비 가르스나 아니 되게 된 거였어 그래서
And then when we talk about the resultant refuge, then look at the verse number 8, which talks about, in the Tibetan is the third verse, but here it's the fourth verse, which is till you gain full awakening. So that till you gain full awakening is indicating about the resultant refuge. No.
다 된데 전주 인닝부 되라 양 예완이 제제 아니 가서는 네 봐. 네 전주 인닝부다 똑바 전주 인닝부 쓰제제 된 전주 인닝부 쓰네 되게 된 전주 인닝부다 아니 똑바 전주 인닝부 써
Now, when we delve further into this full awakening state, we can again have two different elements within that. One is the base or the place of the enlightenment, and the second is the realization of the awakening state. So these again are elements within the full awakening.
네 전주 인닝부 쓰네자 아니 된 전주 인닝부 쓰네자 간들 구 전주 인닝부 되라 구들라 아니 롱구당 주구스
So that place or the base of the awakening state, when we talk about that, that talks about the body, which is the Sampodakaya and the Nirmanakaya.
인디가는 된대기 구 주구 내디 다 단단한데 내저 도시 된데 지고라
So for the Nirmanakaya, the place is the Bodhgaya.
그렇지
Bodhgaya is the place.
아니 롱구기 내디 몸이 두고 그 신경 쓰셔 다 가상한주야 삼대시백이 좋아지기 감광래야 도스여서 몸이 두고 그 신경 쓰셔 내디 몸이 두고고 구디 롱구
So the Sampodakaya is that place of the Sampodakaya is Omitubhikuva, which is the, I think the translation is Tushita, Akinishta sugars. Akinishta is the place, and it's the body is in the Sampodakaya form, and the Nirmanakaya form, the place is Bodhgaya. No.
아니 툭 자주고 있는 곳에 툭디 아니 주고 고드체 이지 주고 쓰기를 주고 쓰기로 상기 토기류에
네, 다 한데 똑바 차라기라.
그래 똑바 자주 있는 분들 니와 똑바 자주 있는 곳에 똑바 자주 있는 분들라 상기 토기류에 아니 주고 고들이야 이지 주고다 뭐니 곳에 니 야와체네 저리야 즉 돈에 주고 수준에
Yes.
숨기 남샤 야구시 남샤 스파체로
No. Yes. And then, so the realization of the awakening seed is the realization of the mind, which is the realization of the Buddha's Dhammakaya. So here the segment of the Buddha's body and the Buddha's mind is segregated from this full awakening state. And within the Dhammakaya, the wisdom realizing the Dhammakaya state and the nature of that Dhammakaya. Yes.
ngonigo da
Yishi
yishi chugu je. Yishi chugu di da sangye chumde di gyulu yube namba tamje kembegi. Namba tamje kembegi shi da kandara namken seya deche. Chugu singi de la ya ngonigo seya di da sangye chumde di tu gyulu yube ane gokten deche.
Is the translation of the Ishichugu, is it
Ishichugu marda chugu. Chugu seya di chidache.
No,
Chugu de la ane
Dhammakaya.
Ishichugu da
Truth body.
ngonigo spayewa che.
Long.
Ishichugu di payewa che marda.
Che mare no the mere kunsu ki good na lola wisdom la or gnosis la or geshe long. So the Dhammakaya, within the Dhammakaya there are two, right? Do we use the translation the wisdom or noises? Wisdom Dhammakaya and Dhammakaya, yeah. So wisdom Dhammakaya and the nature Dhammakaya. The wisdom Dhammakaya is the Buddha's knowing of all phenomena, and the nature Dhammakaya is the emptiness aspect, or cessation. Yes. No.
Shazandi indugane ta dendegi kamne deliang anzuita karsure degabe shugo wa.
So that wisdom Dhammakaya and the nature Dhammakaya, we can take that as the resultant refuge.
Ta danda yegi lungu yubadilla lungu liya lungu singi de kande shago so lungu de liya kejunga den shago kejunga tsango.
Now, when we touch on the Sambodhakaya, then within the Sambodhakaya, 5 different characteristics needed to be there for the Sambodhakaya.
다 당고 뒤 꾸녀봐 쳔베서도 기대봐 시 꾸디 가르선 세상고 숨주산 얘기 기엔데 봐시체.
So the first one is the characteristic unique to the Sambodhakaya is having 32 unique characteristics for that body.
아니 내게 봐도 가르선은 내게 보고 두부고 계신 거 단기 디날 샤스와 어디 뭐 메기 내래.
And the second is the place is the Agnishta. Okay, Agnishta. Yeah, so the place Agnishta.
얘네 아니 숭 아니 구제 다숭 디 아니 최녀바 태고 준비 주 버시숭 다 대진 주 버시숭
And in terms of the speech at that place is the hearing only the teaching of Mahayana. Teaching of Mahayana. Teaching the
다 코르녀바 최 숭구에나 안 최숭서 코르치고라서 안 코르녀바 안에 대진 바 태고 준비 야 코르 장심이나 꾸녀바 쳔베서도 잡아지 아니 최녀바 태고 준비 바시숭 바 코르녀바 장심 바바샤다 거라
네, 전주심 먹고.
장심 파고르셔대 장심 파고샤다 거라
And then surrounded by disciples who are bodhisattvas, or arhat bodhisattvas, Arya bodhisattva, or Arya, yeah, Arya bodhisattvas. Thank you. Yeah, not arhat. Sorry, Arya bodhisattvas.
Arhatasana, ma temele
Dura. Yeah, so arhat can be gone both the middle scope as well. So, so again, there's a great difference. So the technical word is Arya Bodhisattvas.
아니 뒤에가 코아지세 마동고 파르도 슈바스. 딱 구제데 코아지세 마동 파르도 슈버디 데도 꾸냥을 대야 유스 말아.
So in terms of time frame, then until the cyclic existence ends, so there is no end point to that.
아, 된대시래. 다 저산디 인도 전에 다 디크즈들에 말아서 삼당시 도시시에 열어라. 아니 단대 지구들이야 지당어서 다 대나리 단등에 대 슈고에 가르스나 말아서 다 난거 상게 봐. 대나네 추 중요지가 온도 지대가네 다 겸도디 계치를 최고라서 남기네요.
So this area is something that we need to reflect and analyze deeper. We all are gathered here and we all are seeking our spiritual path. And in order for Buddhists to seek this spiritual path authentically, we need to have a pure refuge.
아, 겸도 계신부 책이 순서 다 겸도들라 지당의 겸도 남기 견아지 경계부제 다 겸도 수도 건네 남기 건대질 시고르선 겸도리야 통계 참고에 조 아니 대바다 지번이 참고 있으고라.
So refuge is very important, and how to go about this refuge is also very significant. So generally, to have a good refuge, one needs to have two elements, that is faith and fear. These two elements are necessary in order to have a good refuge.
그래서 나다 직버세디 라니 수수라니 고아당에 송구 동엘에 지신 짱네 시시 간들 딘제질이다 간들 지신 짝배 시그레라 간들 고아당에 송기다 간들 내리야 간들 다 간들 교연 다통이지다 딜리 예바 다통이지 거라 딜리 교연 예바다 딜리 아니 지신 짝바.
So when we here bring about the element of fear, we really need to think about what does it mean by fear. The fear here is about the fear of the suffering nature of the cyclic existence, and particularly the fear of the lower realms. So, and seeing the suffering nature, and you are, you want to remove those suffering, and then you have this that fear because of those suffering nature.
근데 고아당에 송구 동엘에 지신 짝밤 아니 코레 대발에 간다리 교연 때니 아니 델리교베 네바디 딱 군조스물이야 여버려 셰바다 델리교베 네바디 군조스물이야 여버려 아니 딱 간다라 셰네 대바톰이시다 된지 구어라.
No. Yes. So such an individual having that fear will have see the cyclic existing nature of happiness is something to be discarded. And then in order to discard all this, you rely on the refuge, because you see that having faith into the refuge jewels, you know that you have a trusting faith that they will protect you, and they have the potential to protect you. And that kind of conviction has to arise to have a proper refuge into three jewels.
좀 나다 간다스키부도 수도 간에 딜레교베 네바디 아니 군조스물 여버시도 간에 안추 군조 간다스키부도 상계기 간다스키부도 긴두 군조가 아니 딜레 간다스키부도 제제 다 딜리야 삼당고에디 계치무샤르되고라.
Yes, no. So how does three jewels protect you? So then you reflect deeper how the protection happens in terms of how does Dhamma protects you, how does Buddha protects you, and how does Sangha community protects you. So to deeply reflect that and critically analyze that is really imperative.
지주가나 다 덴데 겸니들라 아니 규익겹스도 간에 규익업 원순지산에 아니 상계 다 상계 샤게 투발로 소바당 두순지 상계로 소바당 되게 되다 먼저 개비셔가.
So when we go to the causal refuge, then the causal refuge are the classical Buddha Shakyamuni and the Buddhas of 3 times. They become our causal refuge.
되죠. 다 되게 뭔가 수도 간에 되게 먹이나 요간에 자주 닝보 수도 간에 랑기 톱절 기베 딱 건들 꾸숨디 아니 제비 겹라 개비 용에서 거라.
And when it comes to the resultant refuge, then the resultant refuge we went into this as the till you gain full awakening. So that is your own resultant state to achieve the three bodies of Buddha. So that is the resultant refuge.
다디네 디가리야다 근데 저와단 동주지리야. 근데 규격이 개비 두숨기 상계를 써봤다. 상계 세계 투발로 써봤다. 아니지. 제레시다. 상계 이담로 써봤다. 대존에 다 이해봐. 말한 저기 가서 그래. 도스고 하셔야리야. 다 가서 그래. 도시 예배니엘이야. 다 도스레라 소리다. 예배 시샤를 지러 봤어.
So then in terms of the causal refuge is something, it's we are familiar with it, and we think about the Buddha of the past, the Buddha Shakyamuni, think also about Chiresi, Avalokiteshvara, and one's own personal protector, one's own yidam. Those are something much easier to be familiarized with. Isn't those?
다 제geb기 개위 랑기 톱저리 교배 다 구숨다 요새를 요새 말했어.
So now the question here is about the resultant refuge. The resultant refuge is our own enlightenment, to reach to the highest state of enlightenment, to achieve the three bodies of Buddha. Now the question is, do we have those within us?
맨안에 아니 시절 세면안에 개위 명예질이야 겹송네 뒤에 아니 겸들라고 차두도 왔어.
So if it's not there, then something that is not there is something that we are adopting, then it's a wrong refuge.
자, 제가 중내 시에지나 규익ገብ잖아. 제ገብ니기나네. 아니 제ገብ대 쪽이다 질랍체가 누바체야. 아니 겸도 쪽의 제ገብ대 쓰고 왔다.
And when we look into the classical texts, then in comparison between the causal refuge and the resultant refuge, actually the resultant refuge is more precious and something that to really, deepen.
그래서 규격이 개위 덤버시게도가 요바 용다라. 알아서 개위 뭐다 샤투고라. 다 제ገብ이 자자 라니 게 톱저 규배다 구숨데. 아니 요새를 요새 말했어.
Yes. Yeah, it's obvious that the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni is there, and that's a causal refuge, and that's quite apparent and obvious. But the question now here is about our own final state of awakening to achieve the Buddhahood, attaining the three bodies of Buddha. And is it something that is within us? So that's a question.
다 디기 단단 아주 디 삼노다야 리고 찍디 단기 룽굴이야 룽케중아 된 샤스와스 맞죠. 룽케중아 가려였어.
So when we to delve deeper into this resultant Buddhahood, as I touched earlier about the Sambodhakaya having the 5 unique characteristics.
지난 시간에 룽구디 아니 뒤뒤 코와 마동 봐도 슈긴 시디잖아요. 코와 마동 봐도 슈긴 시디잖아요. 다 코와도 매바 차야기 뒤지 요르스 디슨 거라다.
So within the Sambodhakaya unique characteristic in terms of the time frame until the cyclic existence ends, that's the key line. Until the cyclic existence ends, here also gives a implied meaning of saying that the cyclic existence can end. So if the cyclic existence ends, then we also become a final awakening state. Venerable Pema is saying no.
This is Papa Shata Kor, and Koa Moton, but the Shuguina, Shazang Anzo and Nemshina, Janju, Chansi Papa Chai, but I need the Gora.
Again, the unique characteristic, the fourth one is assembly, being assembly by the Bodhisattva, Aryas Bodhisattvas. So that also indicates that we ourselves can reach to become Bodhisattvas of Arya level. So these are the convictions from the teachings of the Buddha that it gives.
Yama Riguataya, Gong Tia, Dindechiditane, and Korea, the Kandar, Jumzeta, and Winizita, Tumba Mambuchita, let you use more.
No. So that's something unique about Buddhism is that there's so much critical analyzation process can happen, and then we can look at the different sequential orders, how they display, and then we can critically analyze it, and then it can bring about conviction within our mind stream, and based on valid reasoning, and then also what is the true reality, So there are so many parameters that we can bring about with valid cognition and also reasoning, and that brings about clear convictions.
아니 전주그 셈 책이 있어서 전주그 셈들이야 몇셈 단주 셈 쉐디가네 전주그 셈이야다 발치 치슈디 다 단대디르 봐 셈제 담제 상 게야 유메기 도바다 라니 다 상게야 유메 딘데기다 간들 예시지다 디마주나 안 디다 가르소레 셈제 담제 상게가 살이야 고야 유메 태숨 사야를 소바다 라니 상게야 태숨 사야를 소바 지나다 디 전주그 셈기 No.
So the reason why I'm delving on this topic a little bit deeper is because from the next onwards, we are really talking about the great scope individuals. And the most important thing is bodhicitta. And so in order to have conviction into this bodhicitta, one really needs to understand the bodhicitta. With this bodhicitta mind, would I be reach to the awakening state for the benefit of all sentient beings? And would I reach to the Buddhahood myself? So because if you don't have these understanding and the knowledge within your mind stream, then doubt can arise, even if you engage into the practice. So that's why to really delve into this subject about bodhicitta and something that whether one can attain the final awakening state is something to really delve deeper into, to have clarity and to have clear conviction within yourself. And that's why I was asking and critically asking those questions.
사변도 마소네 자와디다 니지치모 이행바 주모 상한 상만 용라체 이네 자와 그 사변도 마소네 니지치모 여바 디지고 핑거 말 인지민지 전주그 셈기 저디 중대 남반이스 제제 알소 젠드 드니기 듬바다 전주 드니기 듬바니다 중대 인지민지 로고고 봐 어다 디게 다 숨디 녀버도 다 전주그 셈
And why this bodhicitta understanding is so imperative, it is that bodhicitta, in order to develop this bodhicitta, one needs to have a seed of the great compassion. So the great compassion is a very important requirement in order to generate this bodhicitta within your mind stream. And in order to have this great compassion, again, the element that is necessary for this great compassion to arise is that they should be focusing on the two elements that needed to be there, that is cherishing others and benefiting other sentient beings, and another one is wanting to reach to the highest state of enlightenment. The spirit of enlightenment. In Lamrim Chimo, it's written spirit of enlightenment. Chanju Thungir and Shindu Thungir is benefiting of other sentient beings. So basically, in order to have this bodhicitta, we need great compassion, we need this mind that's cherishing others and benefiting other sentient beings, and we need the spirit of enlightenment. So these three elements are necessary in order to generate the bodhicitta within your mind stream.
다 신도 dunyi tumba di 신도 ne 아니 신규 기 냥대 라스티라로다. 신도 dunyi tumba di 가서는 아니 신도 ne 신규 신 심제 탐제 규기 냥대 디 인수다. 그래서 심제 탐제 규기다 타르바트.
So when we talk about benefiting others, and the aspiration to benefit others, benefiting others is about benefiting sentient beings in order for them to reach to their own state of nirvana. That's an indication.
다 전주 dunyi tum바디 라니 상기기 공파. 먼저 해야 돼.
And then the aspiration to reach to the final state of awakening or Buddhahood, that is your own liberation, your own the final state of awakening state. No.
디지털간다 단지긴 대접승이디 야다 아니 고린예버 농구 상계그 농구승이디 여버디 그때 중전 될었다네 안고 때는 밥도도.
So going through this critical analyzation process like this, that gives us the conviction about the Sambodhakaya. Within Sambodhakaya, the 5 elements, that is about, being born there, surrounded by the Bodhisattva, Arya Bodhisattvas. So those points really gives us more conviction into the classical text and bring about clarity within ourselves about our own resultant refuge.
그렇지. 이거는 남중 안주 제 남고상 상계배 디지털간에다 내조 도시된 자신부지 대화로서 보다 아니지 겸르게 신부지야로서 같은 소다 중된술 때도 간에 고균제 야다고 시우차로다.
So just in general about Buddhist practices, and then we recognize Bodhikaya is a holy place, is an important place for our spiritual practice, and also going for refuge is a very important practice for the Dharma seekers. So these texts, the classical texts, really gives out how important these practices are. And once we know this preciousness, then we know it through reason by relying on these classical texts. No. So with this, we end morning session. There will be a question and answer session. People can go to bathroom.
Well, I'll ask the question that I have more recently first. Yeah, if I understood correctly, you were saying that right, the bodhicitta has two aspects: the wish to benefit sentient beings and to attain the state of Buddhahood. In order to do that, was Geshe saying, is that the reason that can prove the existence of the Sambhogakaya? What is the link there? If you could explain that.
Tanda dubanyi ki sungde to ani shindu tunye da chanju tunye jira on dingi ki dubanyi di tanlo la khazwe gi seru chana ani pege lungu drubje jira on de la nyebanyi thu re sungu res ting ni kodang digdu res on di Yes, yes. In order having this understanding of the true aspiration, the aspiration of benefiting others and wanting to reach to the high state of enlightenment, it's there within that mind stream that gives you more authenticity and reason base that Sambhodhakaya is there.
Yeah, what is the link? As in, why does that prove that the Sambhogakaya exists? 가르치는 데 롱처 여배 균전래.
롱주저베 롱구 여베기 아니 균제 가르네스요레 디 프루프치다스.
안데 심제 탐제 봐. 심지어 탐지기 교리야다 간달 상계기 리 요래 요 말이냐 디다 고아딩이 뭐와
The first important thing is would all the sentient beings have the seed of the Buddhahood within themselves? That's something to point to really reflect on and then to really come with certain conviction.
상시 요르바서
Is it there?
Yes. 이 순서 심지 탐지 교리 상계 리 순서 안주기 율류베기다 간다 연내면나 셈디 셈 코랑기 랑신라 아니 집어다 예베기 아니 레바큐는 요말 봤어.
And then when we look deeper into our own nature of mind, our own the purest nature of mind is the clear light mind, which is pure and pristine, and it is not tainted or stained. That's another conviction.
그래서 디 인디가 안주 심기 랑신 요세와다 심기 랑신리아 팀에 라보 마슈버디 안주기기 셈디다 상기 규기 셈니 디지부지기한을 봤다.
So then our clear light mind, the illuminating mind, which is unstained by any kind of impurities, that mind is same as the Buddha who has reached to that final state. That mind is same, isn't it?
그래서 디 인디가 다 심지 탐지기 규리야 딘지기 상계기 리당 아니 심기 랑신 요세와디 예나 다 심지 탐지 간다르 수수기 초사 집어 마장르마도 간다 초사 집어 장나 상기기 공부 투규 유버지 얘기도 왔어.
So just like that, all sentient beings have this seed of Buddha nature within themselves, and all the sentient beings have this clear light mind within themselves. Now, having these characteristics within each of the sentient beings, then it would be applicable that we, by relying on the sentient beings, we accumulate tremendous amount of merit and purification in order for us to reach to the final state, as well for the sentient beings. So that's something to really think about, and that also brings the conviction about your question.
심지어 탐지 유라 아니 상기기 공방 아니 수수 디치기나 톱규유 톱을 얘기유나 다디 톱야기 심지어 탐지 유리야 톱야기 아니 탑랑다 누바 카르도스나 누베 융이디 다 단지 예방하되기 롱구들에도 lungu tilata di nyeba tu kayis ga du Quran kwa chise maton patu Quran ne tu gore ani chue de tewa chimbe chue pashi kandar sungni diletene sangye salya tu gore di indikane dinde kita nöbe yungi ji dikane nöbe yungi de lungu matme sosa anta lungu yoba tu
Now, in order for the sentient beings to awaken this seed of the Buddhahood and the clear light mind, and then in order that when they awaken that state, then they can reach to the Buddhahood, right? So that conviction is there, and then that is because of their potential to become a Buddha, then we can go back to this Sampodakaya with 5 elements, because that gives us also conviction that Sampodakaya exists. And Sampodakaya exists because until the cyclic existence ends is one element, right? And also it's surrounded by the Arya Bodhisattvas. So that also gives us conviction. So the point here is that having sentient beings with the seed of Buddhahood, then it also gives a clear conviction with a valid reason that Sampodakaya exists.
진짜가 덴데기 심기 라신 유에세와 제다 심기 라신 팀에 로바 마슈야 기타 탑다 람다 연나 메나티 다 임비 김진 조드 가르세나 이 조디 아니 동요도 베셔르 차고 그러다.
No. 탑다 람다, right?
네, 람.
And so in order for that seed of Buddhahood to be awakened, then we have to apply the skillful methods and the path to practice. And for the path to practice, the most important thing is the wisdom realizing emptiness.
So sem기 땡기 중이 sem기 땡기 중이 시고래 sem기 땡기 동이 시고래 한 셈 라신기 마주바에 시고다 되게 상말로 된다 찍으라.
And all this indicates about that realizing the emptiness nature of the mind itself, the empty nature of the mind, all these are synonyms within that.
그래서 뒤에 소자 아니 상계 좀더 되게 송배 취기 닝부디 아니 잔주그 셈당 안 동의도 배 셔럽인 시지 송야 도스지데 닝부 차되기도.
So in the Lord Buddha's teaching, the most important two factors are the bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. So when we look into that closer understanding, then it's obvious that bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness are really important.
지산디 인도가나다 기부 중의기 람다 기부 딩기 람 되게 상말로 좀 되게 송거디 된제기 기부 준비 람 되게 오르다 기부 준비 람디 아니 귤리기에기 탑랑기 치도 이마도 저기 좀 되게 다 람다 중의시도 말이 송해야 돼 어두스 인사와.
And I could say, or it might be in this context, that when Buddhas turned the wheel of teachings, and the small scope individuals, their characteristic, and the middle scope individuals' characteristics, these are important, but these are not actual teachings. They are prerequisite in order for a great scope advanced level practitioners can. So these were shown to the different mental level disposition at that time, but the actual teaching is the great scope individuals characteristic, and the small scope individual and the middle scope individuals are the prerequisites to the great scope individuals. So that's might be like that.
And then going back to what Geshe-la was saying about the goal of the middling level being, right? As in what I understood was he was asking if liberation is the goal of the happiness of liberation is the goal of the middling scope being, right? But is the happiness of humans and gods also the goal of the middling level being? Is it the topja, right? Is for Kibo Drenki Kibu drink tarpe dewa topcha re yinayang mi thang lagi dewa topcha rebe. Was that Geshe-la's question? And we were just discussing, saying it's not the topcha, it's not what they want to attain, but is it the pangja? Is it an object of abandonment, the happiness of gods and humans for the middling level being? Also is, and also like the happiness of the concentrations, those would be objects of abandonment too, right? For the upper scope beings. Yeah, just to clarify.
Gelai thangi thada kyuding ki thopche ki lamshe do ni thopche de ta chik tharbe thopche yimbada ani tai mi ta lai ki thopche shora thopche gywe thopche di ani pangcha was mudre chitmoi pangcha yindu ani tende ki khansa ki gyula di kyuding ki khansa ki gyun ki thopche di ani tharpa mashi ani mi da lai thopche remindus the moragi samchu ra non di che and dinde indi the pangcha charwas mi da lai ka ji pangcha che ani dinde indi yang lam ya rimba shindu drudu ani jiktingi jingi ki ya dewash leworo and dinso ge pangcha chagi yorwas
실제 띵인지기 대화에 방지 차지 요바.
yes there is
abandon 띵인지기 대화 용서양 방지스 말해. 다 간다 걸 방지 인이 요래 톱제 인이 요래.
So, in terms of abandonment of concentration, yes, there are certain level of concentration that when you reach that, one should abandon, but there are also concentration that one needs to attain. Yeah. So, they can be both. No.
Along that line, I don't think we can say that the happiness of humans and gods is to be abandoned by the middle scope and the upper scope, but attachment to the happiness of humans and gods is to be abandoned. You need the good upper rebirth in order to continue to practice the path. What you want to give up is attachment. Seeking those is your aim.
Ani venerable Tudinchira like Suela ani manzo tachik kiwudingi lamla shuwe kansa digi ani topshe di ani tharbe topshe yundu ine ta pangcha di migi dewa da lai dewa di pangcha re dendeche kodo chunsos ra ine di migi da lai ki kewale la topshe de la ta pangcha isamares ra ine kewalen gores kewalen du midalai kewalen gurim shindu ani yamne di gyun sin tu gurwas yine midalai ki thobje dela chakba chura sem ki chakba di mewa sore samgudos ni di thobela bezin chura samgudos di kebar mundisos. Yes, that's true. That's true.
아즈다 디네 디 가장 안서 좋았으면 좋던서 디 세가 치슈치다 약슈치다 단데 덴데 양라 중이기 좋다한테 덴데 양라 중이기 코아코다다 덴데 양라 중이디 룽중다 룽도 공다 디네 디 가로 세가시 되용서 라마들 이네 덴데 양라 중이디 크신 조에 인데 가서 디 좋던서 자잔다 디 기부 딩기 남샤게 카톨리아 기부 딩기 람기 냠네 기부 충의 갑라야 아니 잠도제 렌텔 이직 대바체 아니 미기 주본 그 수준인데 기부 딩기 갑라 텐데 하나 중이 롱종도 구매할 소바다 아니 지기 다 대신 남자 차르다야 소바딘소 제송야데 다다다 주디가네 슝 공지다 주디가네 고원에 고백임제 침부르도 그래서 텐데 하나 중이 거네 땅아주 고알이야 아니 밀류 컨디슬링거래 겨와 컨디슬링거래 코트다한테 되거네 디 단데 디기 도바세라 시라편 도서라.
Yes, Venerable Tudinchula's explanation is it's true. And for that to have clarity, I didn't get a chance to talk about the 12 links of dependent arising. Actually, for Venerable's clarity, that clarity will be much more for the middle scope individuals in terms of explanation of the 12 links of dependent arising. The 12 links of dependent arising, how it is formed, and all these factors will take into consideration. So that's something to reflect on. And of course, when we touch on the small scope individual, it is very much about the law of karma, going for refuge, abiding by the 10 virtuous action. And when we go into the middle scope individuals, then it really points about 4 noble truths, but also particularly about the 12 links of dependent arising. And then also it has more subtle understanding of the 4 noble truths. And so that's something I didn't get a chance to go through. But the clarity of Venerable's statement will come out from the 12 links of dependent arising.
Is it accurate to say that all the pleasure of the desire realm, no matter the level, is actually the suffering of change?
Could you ask that question again?
Yeah. Is it accurate, or is it too tight? Is it accurate to say that all of the pleasure that arises within the desire realm is basically the dukkha of change?
Once dendechik shogres and the handanganzo debekam ki dewa shura dewa khandiji ne debekam ki dewa sangmachik ani chik dewa khandiji chunga de gyurbe dunya kala shana digores
debe dewase요.
dokam ki dewa khandiji ne. Yes.
So in that sense, it would be an object of abandonment.
And indu ko gyurwe dunya kala indu ani dendegi dewa khandiji ne yang pangja shawarwas. gyurwe dunge yimba nyunzina ani dendegi dewa khandiji ne pangjarwas. Yes.
I definitely do, but I'm not at the level that would be abandoning it. But when I get to that level, it would be an object of abandonment.
Digi nizi delli den koragi panja chawgire sandal nizi delli mes.
But is it true that?
There's a difference between an object of abandonment. What, I'm not shouting long enough? There's a difference between an object of abandonment that you want to cancel completely and remove, like the grasping of inherent existence. But what the problem is not the happiness, it's the attachment, the clinging to that happiness that keeps us in samsara.
Yes.
So you want to not, you can say, oh, I don't want any happiness in samsara, but does that mean that you don't want a good rebirth, you don't want good conditions to practice, because those are things that come from polluted karma?
No, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm going back to the example really of Shariputra,
Yes.
who at that point has abandoned, I would think, as an arhat himself, has abandoned any of the pleasure of cyclic existence. He is now a mind of arhat. I mean,
As an arhat. Okay, so yeah, so he doesn't his food is no longer delicious, or is it that he's no longer
blissed out all the
attached
time?
to it?
He's blissed out by everything.
Aniki no aniki suyen la dende ina ani chik banja ina ani kewal lengo mares kewa yagal lengo mares dinzo kala pasut na
Dende sam tandu kana ane chazan kabri yang sechi luji liya sanke kwaya di kye chimbu yang dan dili inji miji kye warase ta di tokpa tanzu dusle yung warwa.
yeah, so these kind of rebuttaling and critically to analyze all these also makes us to think that within one lifetime one to achieve high state of enlightenment is necessary or not. You know, those are another factor to really reflect on.
Chazan ane sechi luji li sanke kwaya sechi luji liya sanke yagi ludendi ane nga zu mi ludendi ta yakshu chagi usunga ta dende li zidu tsane ane ya samudaya shujdwa.
And then within one lifetime to achieve the highest state of enlightenment, and that possibility is there or not, and the possibility is there, and that's the precious human life is so precious, and this human life is so precious if one can attain that. Those are the important things that we can reflect and deepen our analyzing process.
Chazan layi luden la dende sechi luji li sanke yagi nubad mesu kudachagi.
So in the God realm, this kind of realization within one lifetime by practicing, engaging into practice is something that cannot be attained in the God realm.
Dende samudang di chidi ane kazin kwanda shubana shiri ransu diya yubegi ane kuyu re, danda tuingen re, gugab re, tenzo ngane da shubuji zachin bari dwa dende da hana masu ne shubuji gita kandar shindali ya meba dhaburi chi kanzo da kimsen duwa da su.
So understanding this in a holistic spectrum, then we can appreciate what we have here is such a conducive environment to practice Dharma. You know, you have all the conducive conditions and facilities, and you can take the opportunity to engage into your practice, and which is not there outside, and something that's missing. So we can appreciate the practice. No.
I wonder if sometimes why concentration is considered so virtuous in and of itself and not neutral, because concentration can be used not just to refine the mind, but also to perhaps do non-virtue or participate in poor behavior and harm others, perhaps even. So why is it considered purely virtuous or perfected?
Thank you. Something gombala something the gewa drube chawar was chida. Ine moragi toju chikala something the lumati ge cha yon chor res ra. Ya something the tone ya chik chuba kyobo in the yungu was chiyura lunga ki chuba kyo someday gom dingy dezo yam shimbale nubaki siruas just someday the katu yine givello the conditions the tawalidos luma de the megewa yon chosa ruas the tola
did marasuzure ine Sunday Korang ranzu gyuliya sem dodoji jigo marwa jidangi number shiba Koran rig shegi na number shiba ranzu liya zo rig jugurwa namshi jugu yorwa jugalo kha yorwa kha che ani simjun shashigi na simjun ngabjun ngani yorwa ayi dikane simjun ngabjun ngani dikane danda maran Shabana she Pena Samden sing sort of Dinzo, Pigeon Simjung Rich Chatosara. Chiducaneta, samde gyule temba kanshi chila midi ki kulung nanglo ya nösim le soba yoyati ya sim rik shenda ki di kunelane ko nösim ki yong chugurwa.
Yes. Yes, for your question on meditative concentration, when we try to think about the mind, we should not solidify as mind as one entity. We should think that mind, within mind, they are primary mind, secondary mind, So there are 6 main minds and this 51 secondary mental factors. So in that, if you think in that way, then it's much more broader than having one mind of entity itself. So when we try to look into this picture of the mind, then this concentration falls under the mental factors. Concentration falls under the mental factors. So since it falls under the mental factors or 51 mental factors, that person could have good concentration, but he may have negative intention, No.
Ta dene samden de la shine da ngushi ni che yache. Shine da ngushi ni che ne samden one ge samden yakshu samden ngushi singi de kan lebi na ane nösim de yo mares nösim yingu mares dos.
So then when we look into the concentration as such, meditative concentration, again we make a division of calm abiding meditation and the realization of different levels of clairvoyance. And then in the meditative concentration, they can be polluted concentration, but when you reach to the certain supreme level of concentration, from then onwards, there cannot be any non-virtue, ill will or anything. It will be purely virtuous.
Kayin sina dindegi samde gi ngushi ngo gi be samde ngoma di thudi chane di gong la nyumo chu godne charwa zawe nyumo chu di asana deja shedang kondu ngage dige ta kandar zo debe nyumo godne char ta kandar debe nyumo di.
And the reason is that the concentration at a supreme level, when you reach to that level, you also will have gains the certain level of clairvoyance. And from then onwards, it is only virtuous because at that level, you have abandoned all the 6 root negative mewa sure yang ko palaniers ani
ale ho ta meba sue re yin zawa ne meba sue tu yo mare ta meba de chi
yeah, it is removed, but it's subdued, but in a way it won't come up, the 6th root negative.
Kadar samde gi ngushi chisi yo ba disi ba du ko nyumo di kitu marada.
As long as you are in that virtuous concentration level with certain level of clairvoyance, there is no way that you will have those 6 negative state of mind. Oh, the actual concentration.
Oh, the ngushi.
Oh, so actual concentration with the clairvoyance, right? Ngushi.
Ngushi marda. Ngushi.
Ale, ngushi. So it's
ngushi logar bet kora.
okay. So that the concentration is the actual concentration. You are right. It's the actual concentration level. When you reach to that level, then all the 6 root negative emotions are, yeah.
Just ngushi said di tsikura ngushi said mao nga ru nga ngwen she se di sha chang bu she se she ba dan de ngu shi se di da wo nga chang bu ngwe sa ngwe ga wu sha ki bu shi re be de sik da bu yor de bet ko ran lo ga
Yeah.
dang dang lo ga yin pronunciation da bu yor de yin bet lo ga ba ji le ngui shi ji le ngwen shi
So it was not ngushe, it's ngushi. So ngushi is the actual. So I heard it wrongly. So pronunciation difference. So it is the actual concentration. So
This question is actually from yesterday about the perfection of generosity. So it's within that is compassion or the intention to relieve suffering without reward, including praise, within emptiness, and with a bodhicitta motivation. Do all those factors have to be forefront in the mind at that time of the act of generosity?
kesa gi zinda gi tiwa isra ani haja parchin thambu jimbe parchin zobe negapso ta kansa digi jimba tawe negapso ani ningchi gi chosim bata ani tongba ni gi gekta bata ani ningchi gi phemba tantu susu rangi la chik rewada inde che megyo dende chik sungsos ta dende gi sem mabush to asam dinalo changwe nizu korangushi jimbatang negapsu ko bordu dundela semnalo thungwe chagyo yoreti khandesrves jimbagushi dam and the sama changwe di forefront
Teti mushi sinan nam yita kazi kondo ro na jere ngazo kunun de le ya gyu kunun da du kunun si jere kunun ni yu de zane gyu kunun de pe ke chimbarwa nye ne shu kabri dende su kon shoge ya shangwa da an di kunun de ke se ta gyu sungu da de su ke chimbarwa da jaza gyu kunun su de kan nye le de che an du kunun su de kan kapso ne chimbangu su ta we kable ya an samatang ta de che de samatang wa an jele ya ngwa da melam ke chimbar su de kan jele ngwa da melam kable ani 가르소래 니제다 찬주가 심기 와다 말람 태비나 중을 주숨가 어느 삐다고 차서
For that perfection of generosity, it is really important that in terms of motivation, they are the initial motivation, gyukulung, and tukulung is the actual motivation, engaging motivation. That's how it's used in the term. Do you have a better term for those? Yeah, time. Yeah, in the translation, it's written as initial motivation, which is the causal kind of motivation, and at the time when you engage into the action, it's the engaging motivation. So I'll use that term. Yeah. So Geshe says that these two motivations are really important in terms of doing the perfection of generosity. So the initial motivation is when you get up, doing any kind of virtuous. It's very important to have the initial motivation to be positive and virtuous. And then at the time when you are doing that action of generosity, and then that is the actual generosity where you do the action. And of course, those components that you have indicated, try your best to do that, And then another thing is that at the end, you make a dedication prayer. For all the positive virtuous action. So it's Jongyu Juksum is engaging into the action, and the actual engaging into the action and the completion of that action. So the process, all these three different processes are necessary to be virtuous. So in that way you can do that. So
딜레 카세르스 당베나 남주 남이네레 닌지이네레 잔주스임들이야 쯤에 잔주스임다 Juma my best chiglig to Jinabji Nirvas. Lamlia.
And also, when we talk about bodhicitta, in general, there is a contrived bodhicitta and uncontrived bodhicitta.
Jazandi Nation Tanda Chibegi Yamne Dile, Jume Jibe Yamne Chidan, Juma Mayimbe, Jibe Yamnes Niligra,
So we can take in the same fashion to the perfection of generosity, that is contrived perfection of generosity and uncontrived perfection of generosity.
Jazanda Jume Kabla, Dangi Nation, Angelia Q Kulonda, Denet Duke Kulonda, Denet Jugu Tigeti, Dijet, Ko Changbate de Yonzilla, and Juma Mayimbe, but Chedizane, and Ko Ranching Lay Murwada, kind of talks in where draw the gate.
No. So initially, you are engaging in the contrived perfection of generosity, and for that you need the initial motivation, the actual motivation, and then doing the dedication and all this process. And as you habituate to this pattern for over a long period of time, and then it becomes something a part of your own nature, that it becomes spontaneous, and then at that time it becomes uncontrived perfection of generosity.
That's the Yakshuchilla and Suvenium. That's Suvenium Ledelia Jube, Jume Suvenium Lechidan, Juma Mayimbe Suvenium Linkra.
And then what is something really significant is the perfecting of patience. Again, we can make a division of contrived perfection of patience and uncontrived perfection of patience.
Diletene, Chazanti, Subegi, Takandar Panja, Kondudi, Kondu Dangazu Sangola, Juma Mayimbe to us, Dil Jume Kondu Komber, and Yen and Kondu Sagi, some sugar, some of the town Roman to us.
So when it comes to anger is something that we all have not abandoned, and but it comes very spontaneous, and yeah. Nobody in the early morning get up and say, I'm going to get angry today. So then, of course, now it is imperative that we engage into the contrived perfection of any of these perfection, and then over time it becomes spontaneous. But what we have been, over a long period of time, we have been so much associated in doing this 6 negative root, negative state of mind. We have been so much used to that pattern. No. So let's do the dedication prayer.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Love Sang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Mandalakam Niryatayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forever.